You're listening to Let's Talk About Ethics with me, Evie Wentink. Today's guest is Rod Samra, an experienced EEO and compliance leader, and we are diving into how leadership, culture, and accountability shape the entire heartbeat of an organization. Hope you tune in.
The new shift is like the courts are coming down hard on the employer, and you have to show that you are trying to come up with individualized, reasonable accommodation. That means not one process fits all. And that lead us to the other case that I wanted to talk about, which is Ali versus EPA. Ali was a labor economist who worked for the EPA, and he experienced or he suffers from a condition where if somebody's wearing some type of fragrance, cologne or perfume, and the smell is, he develops a an allergic reaction, and he will have a restriction in breathing and all of that. So he reached out to his supervisor in EPA and asked for an accommodation where he can have a private area. It sounded like when I read the case, sounded like they work in cubicles where everything is open, so that can affect them. He wanted a private area, not necessarily an office of his own, but private area where he can, if it starts to trigger, he can go to it and be there to conducting his work. The employer in this case offered him only 100% telework. The case states due to his personal and due to his personal circumstances, the 100% telework did not fit him. He really wanted to come to the office and work. I don't know if he has kids. I don't know what he has at home. He said it does not help him working from home, and he would rather come to the office. So EPA denied him. They said, take it or leave it, basically. So they refused to consider in office alternatives. The court emphasized that telework is not automatically reasonable. And this is
Interesting.
very, yeah, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. It's not just because you offer someone telework, that's not automatically a reasonable accommodation. And employers cannot shut down the dialogue immediately and just say, take it or leave it. Employers should be able to negotiate and go through a process where him and the employer and the employee can discuss it to come up with a reasonable solution.
I am going to stop you for a second here. So,
Yeah,
telework is not automatically made an accommodation, but I could see it being positive or negative in either direction, right? Because let's say you have employees and they want the accommodation of telework, like not hybrid, but telework.
yeah,
And by the same standards, it has to be go both ways. It doesn't necessarily automatically do that for that side too. Maybe the offering a hybrid
absolutely.
is the option or some limitation to the office space depending on what it is with travel and however that works. So that's definitely interesting how they were looking at it.
It is definitely interesting, and because the vast majority of the employees would take the test. Some
Mhm.
people cannot work from home. That's a known fact. Some people cannot produce from home. Some people have a noisy environment. They have kids and whatever at home, and that can be a distraction to their productivity, and they can be pulled into in different direction during the day. Versus if they were in the office doing their work, they would be a lot more productive. So just because you or I, and the 99% of people would take the 100% telework agreement or arrangement, that doesn't mean it fits all. And that's what the case
Same.
is interesting to me, because the way the court interpreted is that employees are entitled to an equivalent work experience, not necessarily in isolation. So if you see telework as an isolation, it could be a negative repercussion to reasonable accommodation request.
So if employee gets offered working from home and then
Yeah,
employee comes back and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, that's not what I am looking for. I would like an accommodation in the office because I
yeah,
personally prefer to be in the office," then that has to become part of the process, finding a way how to get it done. in the office. Maybe it's a separate office space, maybe it's an own office.
Maybe it's a small area. Like I said, he was requesting for an area where he can go to work from there if his allergic situation got triggered by someone wearing perfume, cologne, or something. So yeah, it could be. The main thing is a one option ultimatum is not an interactive process the way the court viewed it. So the case reinforces that accommodation must be collaborative, not a unilateral decision. So you cannot say, okay, here's what I'm giving you. That's it. That's the end of the story. So the process itself, we know from in the HR realm, that it has to be going back and forth to see what is the accommodation, and it has to be a win-win situation. Given an ultimatum, no matter how enticing or how reasonable you think you are given this person this type of arrangement, you will have to understand if this, or you'll be willing to negotiate if this type of arrangement helps him or does not help him. So that's what's interesting about the case, and it's going to set a precedent in the future, and this is why I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
um,
There's a second part to it. So
yeah,
once the accommodation is given, I think the second part is training and making sure that managers and people within the departments are aware of non-retaliation because somebody got an accommodation, because you see that happening a lot. And it's something we talked about earlier on. It's like the fairness of things, like maybe it's someone who does not look like they need accommodation, but they have documentation from various professionals on why to need it. It's part of the interactive process. Now they settled on something, but then whatever the accommodation was, people feel that maybe why are they getting a special treatment because they don't understand. So I think there is a lot of education
a
to be
lot
had.
of education. Yeah, we talked at the sorry to interrupt you, but we talked at the beginning on equity versus equality. Equity, if you're think about it, if you are in a banquet, and equality, and everybody is getting served the same dish, that's equality. If everybody eats let's say we're serving steak and everybody's having steak, that's equality, everybody's getting the same. Now if you're a vegetarian and you get a vegetable plate, or you add a request for a vegetable plate, yes, you are not equal to everybody, but that's equity in a sense. You are getting your main course just like everybody else. You see where the difference can happen based on your special needs, and this is the best way I can illustrate how equality and equity differ from each other.
Thank you. It's definitely a great conversation to have. I think after this talk, I am hoping that listeners, companies who are close to this process are taking a look at how is their current process of requesting one, how do they inform people about it, and then really give a training to the managers on when this process happens, this is the expectation of you, how you should handle the employees that may need accommodations. And it's not, I think it's something we expect that people know these things. But the
Yes.
more I am learning about this process, if you don't say it to them, you really don't mean it, right? So if you really want something to stick, you have to repeat it, and you have to repeat it often, because if it's important to you, you're going to repeat it.
Yeah, I read somewhere a few days ago, I don't know where I read it, but someone was saying that my biggest ignorance, and the things that I regret the most in life is assuming that everybody knows what they're
Mhm.
supposed to know. And it really is. You think certain things are automatic, or like they say, common sense is not common. So, but you
Right.
think that certain things, oh, people should know that, or oh, I don't have to discuss that. But
You
they
have
really,
to.
yeah, really, you have to. If I can just sum it up altogether in few words, the big picture, the new legal landscape is that there's more employee-centric interpretation, high expectation of employer flexibility, and documentation and individualized assessments are now mission. That means courts are scrutinizing how employers engage and what they decide. So those are the changes, basically.
Well, excellent. We will end on this note. Thank you so much for the wonderful conversation. I look forward to a next fabulous conversation. I think we should probably do part two and in detail talk about the actual process of accommodation and what it should
Awesome.
look like step by step. Today we went high level of the process in general and how it's
Sure.
changing, but I would like to do a part two where we're actually taking the process and giving people the right tools so that they can review their own processes. And hopefully, by having this conversation, we're helping some people who need it. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I'm really excited for part two and talking about it. So I just want to say thank you for hosting me and for putting the limelight and highlighting this very important topic that needs to be highlighted. So I appreciate talking to me today, Evie.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Thank you, Rad, for this wonderful explanation and reminder. And we look forward to releasing part three. Stay tuned.